What's up, everybody? Arael Avinu here with Fully Deconverted, and on today's show, um, we have someone who's written a book, and somebody else that I think just has a very interesting story. His name is Jim Hall, the Cradle Atheist. And before we get to him, I'm just going to plug fullydeconverted.com. We got a series, a crowdfunding for a series that we're going to be filming at the end of this month. And that series is going to be a new series with Richard Carrier. You should see it in the description of this video if you want to check that out, support financially, or share it out so other people can have the opportunity to do so. We'd very much appreciate it. We are currently at $1,000 of a $4,000 goal. We'll stop funding, I believe, on September 21st. So thank you for any support and shares that you have on that. Now over to Jim Hall. Jim, introduce yourself. Say a little bit about what you got going on, my friend.
Hey guys, it's finally great to finally get a chance to meet you guys. You just appeared on my radar not so long ago, maybe a month or two ago, and I've been witnessing the meteoric rise, and I'm glad to finally put a name with a face. I'm used to being on that side of the interview, so if I try to start interviewing you, you just pull me back in line. All right, so me, wow, okay. Cradle Atheist, I didn't even know what the word meant until maybe 6 or 7 months ago. A friend of mine, James Walker, he's a pastor with Watchman Fellowship, watchman.org. And yes, I'm an atheist that just plugged a Christian website, but he's a great friend of mine. He introduced me that way to all his friends. And I was like, okay, that actually sounds pretty cool, Cradle Atheist. And surprise, believe it or not, I'm probably I'm a rarity, kind of a purple squirrel in the atheist community. I think I'm a minority as far as never having believed. And that's a unique perspective. I would rather be not. I'd rather come from a point of experience like a former Mormon. You could talk about Mormonism. I think that they lend more credibility to the argument, but I'll take what I can get. I was forced into Vacation Bible School at the age of 6. I was saved, but the light bulb didn't come on until the age of 8. When the light bulb came on, I was starting ending my 3rd year of Vacation Bible School, and I specifically remember the day that the pastor took my mom out in the hallway, and I overheard him telling her that I wasn't allowed back because I was asking too many questions, and I was starting to. The other children in the class were starting to lose their faith. That's what pretty much at the moment the light bulb came on, that's when I kind of knew something was different. Something was not quite right. And I didn't feel right. I didn't feel like everyone else. And it didn't take until age 14 or 15 when I realized that's when I started using the A word. That's when I started coming to terms with it and getting with the community. And I was more a Dusty Smith or a TJ Kirk back then. And now I'm more of maybe a Hammett Mehta or a Anthony Magnabosco, but I'm not that close, but that's the way I've been going over the years.
Did you say you were eight years old when that incident happened?
When the light bulb came on, I was 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, and when that incident, when I got kicked out of Vacation Bible School.
Yeah. So I think kids are naturally inquisitive. And, a lot of children's books, we had on the author, J.R. Becker, who has this Annabelle and Aiden series. And he pointed out to me, it was a great reminder that, for children, you have 2 types of kind of dogmatic books. One is, I say dogmatic, one is your religious types that simply tell the child what is true. And those truths are the Christian assertions. And then you have other children's books who are meant to entertain the child's curiosity. So do you think, it seems obvious that you were tapping into a little bit of that culture where the curiosity from a child or from a childlike perspective, despite what Jesus might have said, isn't actually the thing they want to elevate. They want to elevate their dogma. Is that what you're suggesting?
Inculcation. And it's common practice. It's tried and true formula for centuries. They've been doing it, and they've gotten really good at it. I think it was St. Thomas Aquinas that said, give me the young boy for the first, 5-7 years, and I'll give you the man. It's childhood indoctrination, pure and simple. But I don't think the God virus affects everyone equally. I don't know. My favorite, I used to love fables back then. My favorite one was The Emperor's New Clothes, if you're familiar with it.
I'm not.
Not the Emperor's New, yeah, the Emperor's New Clothes. It's the story of the little girl that with the long story short, she ends up in a parade. The Emperor, everyone around the Emperor kept letting the Emperor think that he was wearing magical clothes, and he wasn't. He was naked. So he went out into a parade naked, thinking he was wearing these magical clothes that everyone else could see, and everyone acted like they could see him. They just to be on his good side. But this little girl is the only one that shouted out from the crowd, "You're naked."
Yo.
Yeah. But it's an old one of those Grimm's fairy tales. I have to go back and reread it, but I used to love it as a kid. But that one really got me thinking. And you're right, just like what you said. Most, especially the Bible, it doesn't have to be religious. It could be. It doesn't have to be sectarian. It could be secular stories meant to tell you stories like a morality tales. The revelatory, that meant to give you a little snapshot in how to be a good person, or do the right thing. But it's a divine revelation from religious teachings. And when you go to Sunday school or Vacation Bible School or anything church based, it's divine revelatory. It means you cannot question it. This is what it's divine command theory. God said it. I believe it. That settles it. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm throwing out a little bit of apologetics material just out there. We just published an article. It's a simple article about apologetics, and I have these discussions with some other people, and it's amazing that there can be two sides of what apologetics is. And today, apologetics is meant to take Christianity and keep its head above water. So that's the attempt right now. But the two takes I'm getting on it. One from Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy says, is we need to go where the evidence goes. And, by the way, he thinks that validates, verifies his presuppositions, or at least makes those his presuppositions in God justified. But then there's other people, in the mainstream academia of Christianity that says apologetics is not about evidence at all. It's about how you engage with people. And I see that also in the forums that, you're either on this side or on that side. And I can't help but thinking, I'm not sure which side to argue. And then when I argue one side, I've got, one crowd saying that's not what it's about. You don't understand apologetics. And I'm like, I really don't. One person says it's what you argue. The other person says it's how you argue.
Evidence comes in many forms. Really weak and really strong, but there's all different types. There's testimonial, there's written evidence, there's archaeological, there's scientifically testable and provable, verifiable, and falsifiable. I believe that Paul on the road to Damascus, we know based on current mainstream scholarly doctrine, Paul did exist. I accept that he existed. I accept that 6 of the 13 of his epistles attributed to him are legitimate. They're not forgeries, at least 6 of them. I believe that Paul, that the document in, I'm going to get my ass kicked if I get it wrong. I think maybe Galatians, where he said that he met Peter and James, Jesus's brother. I believe that to be authentic. I think that really happened. He never met Jesus in the flesh, but when he said he saw an apparition of Jesus, let's say, on the road to Syria, I believe he thinks he saw that. Yeah, I consider that a form of evidence. Now we have to look at how much evidence and what type of evidence it is meets your criteria, and that's a personal.
Right. So how do we go then? How do we go from?
It's subjective, my man. I mean, what is good enough for you is your inspiring philosophy guy. It's good enough for him, but it may not be good enough for me, or whatever.
Yeah. And okay, so let's say Paul did exist, and all good-minded fellows can agree to that. That's where the scholarship is, and Paul existed. And let's say, all indications point to he is genuinely describing an experience that he had. He's being authentic with his recounting of an experience. in my mind, I'm already trying to discover, how do we make a leap from, okay, you had an experience, to, if all the stories about you are true, I mean, this tied right into your religion. And then there's a lot of dogma that came from there, which, intended or not, because Paul is saying it, and Paul is now somebody who has authority by God. Now you have all this. So why can't everybody say, cool, Paul existed, Paul had a vision, but then it doesn't need to translate into everything else that it translated and produce a culture which it produced, and the dogma that it produced, and here we are doing it today. Why can't we let go of all that?
Like I said, we were talking about evidence. That is just one piece of evidence. It's not near enough to sway me that anything. It's not evidence of it. Let me also caveat this. That is a form of evidence. It's weak, and it says nothing about. It says nothing about supernatural claims.
Yeah,
because his vision could have, Occam's razor could totally been explained another way, a natural scientific way.
So are you saying that distinction right there? I mean, the fact that his vision could have been explained by any means, that should be a stopping point where we no longer consider evidence from there as leading to something else he's making an assertion of?
But like I said, it's a subjective interpretation. Yeah. That might be enough for your inspiring philosophy guy, which I did catch a little bit of, by the way. Yeah. You just got on my radar, but I did have time to catch two personal friends of mine that you've had on, Cyrus the Skeptic and Anthony Matabosco. So I've watched a little bit of your stuff, but I like getting a new channel, where they've already got a library of work and I didn't know anything about them, and it's exciting because it's like opening a new shrink-wrapped new gadget because I look at all this and I get to binge on it, so that's where I'm at on you guys. But yeah, so I did get to watch some inspiring philosophy, and that's what it looks like. It looks like he's willing to accept that minimum bare level of criteria of evidence and take it from there and make a conclusion. I'm not ready to make a conclusion. I've never made a conclusion in the favor of anything supernatural.
Jim, your life experience, based on what you've said, leaves you in a unique place in the atheist community. Cradle atheist as you are means that you did not come from a place where you're already believing or having all these presuppositions about how you got here, what gives your life value, etc. And yet here you are, an activist in it. What advantage do you think that gives you when it comes to addressing some of the concerns that people who deconvert from a religion express? How are you able to help them out? What do you contribute to the community? Only
one advantage, that the fact that I exist, that the fact that there are people like me out there. I don't have to say a word to extend my advantage. I can just stand here and they say, look, there's someone who never believed. It is possible. That's the only advantage I have over someone who's a deconvert or a convert or whatever. Here's my criteria. I consider myself, everyone is on, here's my Jim Hall scale of credibility, let's say. Everyone starts out at a default 0, right? The highest you can go is about 3, all right? I'm a 0, I'm still a 0, because I've never changed my religion, and I've always been the same. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm probably not a 0, I'm about a 2 maybe. Because if you have changed religions once for good reason and you've stuck with it, your credibility goes up 1 in my book. Like my friend James, he was a Mormon all his whole childhood, and now he's an evangelical Protestant. And he stayed that for his entire adult life. So I give him a credibility, assign him a 1. If you're actively searching, you get another 1. So now you're a 2. If on top of actively searching, you constantly remind yourself to be unbiased and physically go through fail safes on yourself to make sure that eliminate bias, that gives you another 1. So the most you could be is 3. So I'm about a 2 because I've never really changed religion. Now, if you changed religion or religious demographic more than once, you lose 2. So so if you're 0, and let's say you're a Christian, you become an atheist. All right, you're a 1 because you've switched and you've stuck with it. But then you switch back to Christianity, now you're a -1.
So what gives a person the ability to traverse kind of that platform that you just described? What allows them to move from one spot to the next?
This is just my arbitrary assignment of, credibility, but you
Yeah.
can look at it as, well, it's your personal motivation. My brother, he's been an atheist as long as I have. He's never believed. He's a cradle atheist also, but I consider him an apatheist because he doesn't think about it. He barely acknowledges that I have a show on YouTube. He might talk about it every once in a while. It's like, how's that show going? I'm like, yeah, I got 3,000 subscribers, bitch. And he's like, yeah, cool. He doesn't even care, man. Yeah. He just doesn't care, but but that's cool. He doesn't think about it much. So he doesn't get that point for constantly searching. Right. Because even as an atheist, even if it's true or not, it is the biggest question anyone could ever ask, right? Is there something more than us?
Right.
Does some part of us live on after death? I can't think of a more important question for any human to ever ask.
Yeah, good.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the fact that he's not answering it, well, and the fact that he's never changed religion, and the fact that he really doesn't care if he's biased or not. My brother's a 0, while I'm a 2. But my friend James Walker is a 3.
Yeah.
And
So how does a cradle atheist approach even answering that question? That's something that I was curious about with you and other cradle atheists now that I've discovered this term. How do you approach answering that or dealing with that?
I don't know if I attempt to make positive answers on it. Yeah. Like I just said on your, I was watching your Facebook just 10 minutes ago, just waiting for it to go live, and I saw someone had talked about not believing there are no unicorns that shoot rainbows out of their ass or something. It was on your Facebook, on the Fully Deconverted Facebook, and I responded to them by saying there are those that don't believe there is a God, and there are those that believe there is no God. Right. The first one is a passive response to a claim. The second one is an actual positive claim. I tend to be in the camp of that former. Yeah. I tend, and it's not because I'm scared of positing something that I'm forced to defend. It's just that I don't have any evidence either way. So it's a passive type of claim. But I really don't know how to respond to your question any more than I just keep my eyes open. My channel, I have believers and non-believers on my show. Our show is unique in the fact that in this divided, culturally, politically, socio-economically divided culture where we find ourselves in right now, I think my show is not unique, but kind of, we are a minority. We're constantly trying to bring opposing views together in a civil and amicable way. That's where I think that's the niche we've carved for ourselves. Me and my co-host Courtney, who couldn't be on tonight, but we try to build bridges, find common ground, and we always end our interviews with a handshake. And we try to keep an open mind.
That's cool.
That's the main thing.
Is it taboo for atheists to speak about their longings for ideas that are usually held by religious groups, such as the afterlife? Is it taboo for us to talk about that or express any longing for it?
I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. Arael. I'll get it. Arael. Okay. That is really hard to pronounce. Do you, let me ask you, I'm sorry to be the interviewer, but I'm just going to do it real quick. Do you have something longing for something more, something out bigger?
Yeah, it comes up every now and then. Like every 2 months, I start thinking, well.
And I'm not talking bigger as in, I want to do something for humanity, bigger as in divine, intelligent agent bigger.
Yeah, that's really in the abstract thinking of it, but I do wonder about that.
Mm-hmm. I never had that.
Yeah.
No. I'm doing a book series on my Atheist Edge. If anyone, shameless plug, if anyone wants to go to Atheist Edge and subscribe to that. We're in the middle of a 9-part book series. Shannon Q is doing the voiceover for it, so we got her to come on. We just touched on that just recently, and I just forgot where we were at. What were we talking about?
Is it taboo?
For searching for something else. Yeah, because in her book, the book we're dissecting is a former atheist, now Christian, and she talks about how every human has an innate need to believe in God. That it's written on our hearts. It's in the Bible that the need for God is written in our hearts. She alludes to that, and we take it apart, line for line. I think part 5 we talk about it in depth about how we explain it is not necessary. It's just not necessary. There's no reason to think there's anything more than this. Just like Tim mentioned, maybe isn't it enough to just look around the big, beautiful universe and with awe and wonder and not have to add anything to it? Or Richard Dawkins, who says, isn't it enough to look at a beautiful garden in your backyard, to admire it in the awe and the beauty of it without imagining that there's fairies flying around in it also?
Yeah. Yeah, when you say that now, it's hitting me again that this seems to be the remnant of my own indoctrination of being in Christian ministry for 20 years. Every now and then you get that, yeah, but I wonder, yeah, but couldn't there be more meaning to a structure built into the universe wherein after this body dies, there's still an experience left? So you say that, and I become very aware and conscious of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I don't know if I'll be able to stop that.
How long? Wow. How long have you been a non-believer? Has it been fairly recently?
Yeah, with about 10, 11 months.
Wow. Man, I got to get you on my show. You got to return me the favor, man. I got a million things I want to ask. But in line with that, just now before we went live, right across the street, there's some roofers finishing up, and they were pounding away, right? And it's thunderstorming here in Dallas-Fort Worth. So I had booming thunderstorms, and my dogs were going crazy. And I'm constantly having to, it never fails. It only happens once every month or two, but it just so happened right now, I was stung in the eye by a scorpion in Iraq. And about once every month or two, because this tear duct is fake, the venom melted it. So it was grafted tear duct. And every once in a while, like once every 2 months, it starts watering uncontrollably. And guess when it decided to?
Right
so
now.
all these things. And then I thought, how funny is this? Because right now, a normal human being, probably not normal, but a regular human, just your average human being, would look at all these things and say, something doesn't want me to be on fully deconverted. Like there's some ascribed meaning to that. And it didn't even cross my mind, except in the fact that I acknowledge the fact that other people might perceive it that way.
Right. Jim, I think it's really, we were just talking about the afterlife, and it's just a beautiful thing to talk about. It's okay.
Man, your voice, dude. You got some Seth Andrews. I want to make love to that voice, dude. That's butter. That's awesome.
Try to pull it out.
Anything for that voice. Well, I was a drill instructor for 3 years in San Diego, and I literally yelled at 600 recruits a day for 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 years straight. So I've got permanent scar tissue in the throat. This is as good as it's ever getting, and 11 broken noses and a nose job. Yeah. So it's not going to get any better than this. So I envy that.
Was that so? All those broken noses, was that all through your drill instructor days?
No, no, I was an MMA fighter before I enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Man, you got a lot, man. So I've seen like let's call it a bullet point of a little bit of your history, and I see your I don't think it's quite a shadow box, but a shadow box behind you. Is that right?
Oh yeah, this way, yeah, right there.
Yeah. And so how long were you in?
21. I was a drill instructor for 3. You usually don't do more than 3-year tour. That's all. It is widely accepted as the hardest job in the Marine Corps.
Oh,
physically, mentally, emotionally.
I believe it.
A recruit, like if you're thinking about enlisting right now, you're listening to this, or you have a son or a daughter that's thinking about doing it, and you're worried for their safety. Look, they're going to get 8 hours of sleep. We don't beat them. They're going to, life's going to be tough for them, but it's nothing compared to what their instructors are going through. We get 4 hours of sleep a night. We're slamming Twinkies and Mountain Dew down our throats when they're not looking, because we can't let them see us eat, because we're machines. We're not human. We don't wear wedding rings. The smokers don't smoke in front of them. We cannot look human to them.
Yeah. So I was in the military for 12 years, not the Marine Corps. The Navy.
I wish you hadn't told me, because I was going to guess Navy. because just in the last 25 minutes since this interview has been going, I have caught, I'm on a Reddit site called The Science of Deduction. Yeah. And so I pick up clues. I can see like what's behind you, and just clues in your voice and your syntax and your grammar.
Yeah.
3 things you've said thus far, and I can't place them, but have told me Navy. You were either a Navy brat or you were in the Navy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in the Navy for 12 years. The first 3 years of that was with Marine Corps Security Forces down in Kings Bay, Georgia.
Wow. Did you get to exercise with him, PT with him?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know what the Navy was like until I went to Japan. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we did everything with them. It's the startup program for their security weapons program that they had down there. So
it's not normal Navy where you just run 1.5 miles a year. That's you're getting out there and getting after it probably.
Yeah, let me tell you what. Like, I really appreciated the Marine Corps and you guys. And sorry everybody for the sidebar, but let's just do our thing here. You know, we had these. You guys were big back then. Okay, I'm just gonna say. This was only a few years after, you know, 9/11. It wasn't too long after that. The Marine Corps was really pushing it probably with recruiting because you guys were nonstop huge for like 2 or 3 years. That whole time.
Pushing 300,000 maybe. And now we're back down to like 140,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, you guys and the PT with you guys, like I really appreciated it. You guys had it going on. And then I went to Japan and I'm like, oh, we don't work out. Oh.
Nice.
PT's not that big of a thing with us, you know, except twice a year, you know, that's
wow. No. Drill instructor. Oh gosh. I've multiple tours in Iraq, and I think I have more PTSD from my time as a drill instructor. Just the 6-mile beach runs as a warm-up for your PT session. Come on, man.
Oh yeah. No, I would be destroyed. Let's go to your service a little bit and connect it with kind of the theme here. So it sounds like you've ran into a couple hairy situations, regardless of their circumstances. Has none of that ever prompted you, like some might think it would, to consider something beyond yourself for validation of your life's meaning or purpose?
That's the old atheist and there are no atheists in foxholes question, right? I get it a lot. Okay. Yeah. When you, not just in a combat zone, just you know as well as I do that when you're trained to do something, you're trained to do it under austere conditions, stressful conditions. Yeah. You're trained to be able to. The only way I can explain it to people is same as MMA fighting. When you step into the ring, your brain shuts off and all that muscle memory training kicks in.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee was once tried for assault. I don't know if you're aware of this. He stood before a judge and he beat up the guy so bad, people thought he actually got hit by a bus. But the judge asked Bruce Lee point blank, why did you do this to him? Why did you beat him up so bad? And the famous quote is, I didn't do it, Kung Fu did it. Do you see where I'm going? Like in those kind of situations, you have to rely on your training, the muscle memory training. There is no time to even if you're religious or not religious, to kneel down and pray, or even to shoot up a little prayer, because that's one time you could be calling in a call for close air support. Yeah. Your brain is turned off. Your body's just doing its thing.
Right.
That's how I saw it.
So, okay. So what about afterwards? Because I can imagine people in the religious community be like, yeah, but you have to reflect on it afterwards, and you have to assign, the coincidence and the circumstances and the situation that was going on there. You were removed from it. After all, Jim, we've heard those inspirational stories of people not going into combat until they prayed, and then something significant, worthy of noting later after the fact, might be used as an assertion that there was some divine protection over them. So
you made me think of one time in particular. We lost a couple of Marines. The convoy came back. We had to do after everything cooled down, and we got everything cleaned up and got everyone where they're supposed to be, and got the service members to where they're supposed to go, and done for personal property accountability, and everything you're supposed to do. When it's all said and done, hot wash, everyone, there's always, a hot wash. And when you all get to, like a debrief, everyone gets together, we talk it out, lessons learned, what could we have done better? Let's prep for the next thing, right? And that's when everyone, I'm not the only atheist out there, because I wasn't the only one that didn't kneel down in this, everyone's kneeling down in the circle with their arms around each other and gave a little prayer. I stood there, not in defiance. They knew that Gunnery Sergeant Hall was not a believer, and they didn't hold it against me. But afterwards, when they're done, I went and hugged everyone and offered my support.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's ways to, show you support besides being in this group, a hive mind mentality. And I don't hold that against them. If that's what they want to do to cope, do it. If like Patton Oswalt says, if believing in the dumbest thing I have ever heard gets you through your day, don't stop believing in the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I can appreciate the pragmaticism there, the usefulness of that. Yeah, so on the Navy side, we didn't quite call it hot wash, or debrief. Sometimes we call it debrief, but we use the term dismount, and it's one that I grew to not be so fond of on those very, very long 18-hour days when you've been on mission all day and you got somebody that wants to lead a dismount and talk about nothing. Yeah.
That's what you say to your lady friend after 45 minutes of hard intercourse. No, dismount. Sorry. All right. No, you know what? I've been on guided missile cruisers. I've been on nuclear powered submarines. I've worked with the Navy a lot. I've never heard dismount. That's the first time hearing it.
Oh my, yeah.
So
dismount. That's it. I think I heard that while I was with you guys down in Kings Bay, Georgia. Dismount, always dismount. That we have dismount after. Yeah,
why have I never heard that? That's so weird.
Well, it's probably okay. So I was in like security forces, law enforcement, expeditionary combat. So I don't know if it was like specific to those fields.
Security force, yeah. That's the law enforcement side. Well, there's MPs on any base, so you're going to be around them. It's so weird. Wow, I'm sure there's some terminology. Yeah. It's fun being the only Marine on a guided missile cruiser with 537 sailors and 7 Coast Guardsmen. You're kind of a rock star. It's hard not to get a huge head. It was really fun, really fun.
I believe it. Yeah. When the Marine Corps and the Navy mixed together, I'm sorry, all my fellow service members out there, but there is kind of like that head turn to what's the Marine guys doing over there? What's going on over there? What are they up to? There's that little extra attention that's like, what are they up to right now? You're either expecting something to go bad or something to go right. So
it will never reach Marine the bond I feel with my fellow devil dogs, but it's really close. I feel a kinship with sailors as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right, so you've been to your dismounts, your debriefs, your hot washes. You've seen your guys, show their gratitude that they have their type of good fortune coming out of a circumstance which they're thankful for, and you've politely engaged with them showing their gratitude by allowing them to show it, and then coming in for that camaraderie and that unity after. Did I summarize that correctly?
That was precise, my good man. Wow. Yeah. I wish I had that kind of elocution.
Okay, so that's fascinating. So no foxhole moments there, and I can appreciate that in my imagination, Jim, because when I imagine a person in your position, you're right, because now my go-to is just appreciating the world for what it is. But I can tell you, there would not have been a time where I felt like it was about to become a dire situation where I didn't have that, hey, here we go. Before things heat up, I need to make sure we're together. Because like you said, when it starts kicking in, you're not thinking about anything. All your training kicks in, and you go through your standard operating procedures and everything that you know to do, your rules of engagement. You're just making sure everything goes right, and then all the muscle memory kicks in.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're right there with me. Yes, and that's true. It's not just us two people listening. It goes for that. Even an Air Force desk jockey, they have it to some extent too. It's putting on your game face. You don't have time to pray. Yeah. If someone says they threw up, if they're sitting there doing their Hail Marys during a combat situation, they're lying.
Yeah, no. It's not a real combat situation then.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's amazing. That someone can live their life so distinct from what a religious community might imagine it to be, you know, the atheist and the foxhole and everything like that. All right. So let's shift off that a little bit. I feel like we beat that up a little bit, and just to clear the air, because I've never actually spoken with a cradle atheist in a scenario like that, like I just have with you. So I was curious.
am I the first person on your show that's never switched beliefs?
I don't think so. I think we've had a couple of people that were just kind of never there. But especially the combat scenario is just a significant element in public thought in America over the past decade or so, where this becomes relevant to our conversation now. So I just never thought to ask it to anybody else except for you just now.
Yeah, I touched on it on a couple of my shows on the channel, but I don't think I've really done a deep dive. That might be a good topic for a show. But whenever I talk to Steve McRae, we go off on these kind of tangents, and to everyone else's cringing, but we'll talk for an hour because he's Navy also. You know Steve McRae, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, he's with Non Sequitur, the great debate community.
Oh.
Steve McRae, he's
Okay.
Yeah, the Non Sequitur show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a sailor. He was a Navy nuke tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of those brainiacs.
Yeah, those guys that never get to get out of either the submarines or wherever they've got them holed up at.
Right. Yeah, he's smart individual. But yeah, we go on these tangents all the time. But I've never done an actual episode or series dedicated to life of a service member atheist. That might be kind of something to think about.
I think you should, especially with that, you know, Shadow Bucks back there behind you. You've got that theme going on. I really think it would resonate with a lot of people because people have a lot of pride in the military who are not in the military. And then you have the military who has military pride. And then, you know, you cross-reference that with something like atheism or foxholes and that sort of thing. I really think that would be a great episode.
I'm a member of a local atheist activist group here in Dallas-Fort Worth. We do a lot of protests and parades, and we do the gay pride festivals. I mean, we're everywhere. So it was maybe 2 years ago. Whenever we do a 4th of July parade, we call it the bubble of silence. All right. So in front of us, it's usually Boy Scouts of America, let's give it up. And they march by and everyone's, yeah. And then now Metroplex Atheist, the oldest atheist organization in North Texas. And it gets just, you could hear a pin drop. And then as soon as we walk by, and now the Flying Elvises on tiny little motorbikes, everyone's back to, yay. But you'll inevitably get people saying, you think it's hot out now, just you wait. Or, you know, things like that. And they say, you don't know what it's like to serve you hate America. And so inevitably, my fellow Metroplex Atheist members will say, this guy right here was a Marine for 21 years. So I'm used kind of as a, hey, look, we're Americans too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I cringe to hear what you just said.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, that people say that. I'm maybe a naive to a lot of stuff, but Bud over in the live feed right now is asking a question that I would love to touch on. Are there multiple denominations in atheism like there is in religions?
Okay, denomination denotes a religion. And of course, we all know atheism is not a religion. So that right there explains that there are no denominations. There are no real flavors either, because our only commonality, all 6 to 23% of the American population, that depending on how you ask the question, are atheists. But of all of us, we only agree on one thing, a response to a single claim. Do you believe in God? That's it.
Yeah.
There are, at my local meetings, or the people, atheists that I have on my show, I will get far left, progressive, Marxist, neo, just the ones with the pink hair. I'm just joking. I'm totally joking. But those, and then I'll get the right of center. September 29th, I've got a atheist Trump supporter, far right, coming on, ex-Muslim coming on my show.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yes, he's a not a Republican, a libertarian, Trump supporter, really far right leanings, even social issues. I mean, so we're all over the political and social spectrum. There's really only one thing we agree on. So are there denominations? No, because there are no churches. We're not a religion. You've heard it before. Atheist is a religion, just like off as a TV channel. I mean, it's kind of trite now at this point, but it kind of makes sense. Or bald as a hairstyle.
Right. But what about the things that do divide us in the public spectrum when it comes to how we approach the issue of atheism, atheism versus religion? Why are some of us firebrand, and why are some of us more kind of passive? And like Bart Campolo, for example, strikes me as a person who just lives his life and does what he can with humanist values in mind. And then there are other people, like my friend Damian Marie at Hope, who is a blazing intellectual, and every chance he gets, is probably putting something out in the public space, like, body slamming religion down to the ground, if I can use that. So why are there differences among us when it comes to this? Is it because some of us are just more affected than others?
Well, the easy answer is everyone's different. We're all individuals. The harder answer is, first off, we have to assume that every atheist out there wants to go out and evangelize and change minds, which totally is not the case.
Yeah.
I could not care less if I make an impression on any believer now. Because of my 2 books and because of my YouTube show, have I gotten personal messages saying, hey, you pulled me out of something? It's humbling. It has happened, but it's not my end goal. Some atheists, it is their goal. So even that we can't agree on. And some firebrands, TJ Kirk, Tusty Smith, like who I was talking about, are they effective? Yes, they are. Are they effective? Do they accomplish the goal that they're trying to reach? So the firebrands, the David Silverman types, the ones that are just in your face, they are effective at what they do. But are the street epistemology guys, the Bogosians, the Magnaboscos, they're effective as well. Being super nice. The Hemet Metas, just you kill them with kindness. It's effective too. Our show, where we get people, we don't let them leave the studio until they shake hands. That's effective too. We all have different goals in mind. Our main goal is to get people of opposite ideologies, not just religious, even political, social, people of different ideologies in a room together and hear each other out, because we always find that we have more in common than we don't. That's our goal on Atheist Edge. But someone else's goal might be completely different. If you're accomplishing your goal, you're succeeding.
Jim, as a cradle atheist, it might appear to some that you've not fully considered the merits of the other side of the fence. What qualifies you to speak on it?
This book. Now, yeah, that's kind of toot my own horn, but anyone can write a book. Each one took at least 15 months of prep time. So I did get a chance. Well, since I was 6 years old, I have read the Bible 7 times. I've read the Quran in 4 different translations 4 times. I've read the Vedas, the Upanishads, the I Ching, the Upanishad, the Vedas. Most of the Hadith in which the Sunnis and Shias agree on. I've read all those Hadith, and then several others. I haven't read them all yet, but reading them is one thing. Studying them, listening to other people's interpretations of them, reading dissertations on certain aspects of them, that's another. And ask my wife. When I find something that I enjoy, why I enjoy this, I have no idea. But when I enjoy it, I tend to go in head first and I hit it hard. Before this, it was chess. Before that, it was mixed martial arts. When I was a Marine, I put everything into marining,
Yeah.
And that's how you do it.
So what would you say, what's kind of your one takeaway then from all your experience coming into this community and doing the type of activism that you do? What is the one takeaway you got from all your studies that you feel like you bring to the table and you're able to speak on? What has equipped you with perspective?
There's so many more. Whatever I can list as a quality that I have, I could name a dozen people off the top of my head have it better. So really nothing. Maybe just I have the greatest compliment I ever receive is when especially believer tells me, you know what, I can tell you come into this actively seeking the truth. You're not trying to win an argument. I can tell you are a seeker. And that is a great compliment to me. I go to an atheist and Christian book club once a month. It's half Christians, half atheists. Arn Raw showed up once. It was really fun. But we discuss a Christian book one month, and then a secular book the next month, and we discuss it. And there are those on both sides that are just there to win a debate. You can tell who they are.
Yeah.
And I pride myself in the fact that I love listening to the other side. I like listening to the side that I tend to agree with. And I have changed my mind. This is 2018. I have made at least 3 major issue changes in my life where I have turned on a dime. Like I held this position and now I hold that position. Mm-hmm. So that's great evidence that I'm not stuck on my ideology.
Yeah, I'd say that's great. A lot of the issues as a believer to a non-believer, I can see how I've done a U-turn on plenty of those. Oh my goodness. And a lot of it, sad to say, has to do with my children. Like just the pressures you feel in parenting. Jim, do you have children?
Yeah, 2 girls. One just went off to college. It's kind of it's a sad time right now, but I'm excited for it. But yeah, I can see that. And you haven't even been a non-believer a year. I mean, it must be a daily basis, the changes. And you went from believer to running this, to doing this show. Yeah. Now you're getting shotgunned in the face with all these different viewpoints and ideologies.
Yeah.
It's got to be insane.
But it's great. It's kind of the only way I know how to do this. And I think the reason why I went into this so headstrong was the fact that I was getting shut down by my own religious community. And I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong. So I figured, you know what, right or wrong, there's something to all of this. I'm going to make sure the conversation both gets had and gets heard. And that's the way I started. And then I found out what side of the fence makes the most sense to me. And here I am, and I'm going to keep this going until we can trailblaze through some shit that we're all dealing with.
You come to this with you're comfortable in front of a camera. I would say you're probably been in the entertainment. And would I be wrong in saying you've been in the entertainment, maybe broadcast industry, maybe most of your life?
Behind the camera.
Behind the camera. Oh, photographer.
Not photographer, like cinematographer. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And probably musical background too, I bet.
Much earlier than that, yeah.
Because when your hands are still, I notice on the left fingertips, they're still a little callous. You played a string instrument?
I have a guitar over here. Yeah.
Bam. That's if you go, I don't know why I'm plugging Reddit, the science of deduction, but it's really fun. People will take a snapshot of, say, their dorm room or just themselves or the clothes that they wore yesterday. Yeah. And you have to make these abductive reasoning statements based on Sherlock Holmes kind of shit. And it's fun, and I can scare myself sometimes. I had just met this lady, perfect stranger. I really scared myself. I had her pegged as a vegetarian, agnostic, engaged, but not living with her fiance yet. She lives in the Southeast United States. She was a professional cellist, and her gym subscription was overdue, and she needed to go pay her gym because her payments were overdue. And all I got wrong was that she was a violinist, not a cellist, and she was first chair in the Miami Symphony Orchestra.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna plug whatever that is into our descriptions just so people can go check this stuff out, because it's amazing.
On Reddit, it's the science of deduction. They call it deductive reasoning, but that's more precise. What we are doing here, what Sherlock does, that's not deduction, that's abduction. It's less precise. It could be wrong. Sometimes it's just not much better than a coin flip guess. But once you get 1 or 2 of them right, it's just like cold reading with these faith healers, or these guys that can talk, mediums that can talk to the dead.
Yeah.
Once they get 1 or 2 good solid hits, the rest come easy. It's like an avalanche method. They can really start digging down on you.
Okay, so that's great. I can tie that into something combat related with the military, but before I even try that, I want to make sure to get to Kevin's question over in the live feed. Do you think religion should be eradicated. And let me paint a picture before you answer that. I just want to paint a military picture, and we might transition into that. When I was over in the Middle East and we're training, you know, I know people might flip out about this a little bit, but in law enforcement or in combat scenarios, you are taught, not in every circumstance, but you are taught to profile people. And what that does is that alerts you to certain things that, like you said, might alert you to a second thing. But once you get 3, you have to take action. And when whatever message those 3 signals send, you must take action on that. And there's like 4 different actions you can take. You know, I don't want to say them here because I don't want to make this a combat thing.
We could talk hostile intent, positive identification, ROE, rules of engagement, semaphore flags, green lasers.
Yeah. Part of ours was contact. And I don't want to say it. I'm going to say it, but everybody, we're not in a combat scenario. Kill, capture, or contact. Those were your primary 3 that you do in a combat scenario, based off the things that you get picked up. And, you know, as you might imagine, some of the tonality of the situational awareness that we have over there is looking for religious iconography. So I say all that just to paint maybe an entertaining
But
picture.
let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Sam Harris would agree with you, and he did not even say it as eloquent as you just did. That is right on the money. And anyone that is possibly, you know, I'm respectful of everyone. I don't want to purposely trigger somebody, but when we're talking about profiling here, it's in a different context, just so we keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And then so the question becomes, now that I've painted that entertaining picture, is why not just do away with it all? Should religion be eradicated?
I've said this quite a few times on my show. If the government, for some reason, wanted to become something former Soviet or, you know, former Vietnam, where religion becomes illegal, the practice of religion, freedom, that particular part of your First Amendment rights, they tried to take it away. Right. I will be in the picket lines with the rest of the Christians. Right. I will be vehemently fighting it just as hard as they are. Just like Patton Oswalt. If that dumb thing gives you some hope and comfort to fight off the bastion of your despair against the fear of the unknown and the dark and your own mortality, if that's what you need to feel comfort, then don't ever stop believing that thing. And you should have the right to practice it too. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, you know, like what animal sacrifice. Been a vegetarian for 6 years, so no animal sacrifice. But yeah, I'm right there with you.
Okay, now let's take what you just said and let's try to shift it a little bit. Let's play with the circumstances. Let's go from everybody has the right, but let's forget about government. Let's forget about policy, enforcement, and all this other thing, and let's move maybe more. I can't say this is just more philosophical because the other is philosophical as well. But if we could have an idealized society, in that society, is it one in which humanity has evolved in such a way where they have, you know, shaken the religion off of their feet like dust and moved on with their life? Or ought humans to maybe reserve a space in our social arena and kind of guard that a little bit as a place for religious, supernatural, or otherly thoughts and beliefs?
Belief is knowing something without evidence. That notion is in itself, and I'm talking the actual definition of belief, i.e. faith, i.e. Hebrews 11:1. The original definition of faith is knowing something without evidence. Yeah, that is the most illogical thing. That can go away. That's the vestigial. Religion is a human vestige. If it were to completely disappear tomorrow of our own volition, not through coercion or force, I would be down with that, because it does. And I can name, if you get my first book, Most People Believe in God, Can They All Be Wrong? I go into depth about how religion retards human progress. It retards scientific progress. It pushes pseudoscience in our public schools. And I've got an entire chapter of all the things that religion itself, how it harms us. So yes, I'd be down with it in this idealized futuristic, scenario. If it dies out, like our appendix and our fingernails and our eyebrows, if it just goes away, that would be fine with me.
Well, let's press that for just a moment, because David the Gnome says, without God, life is meaningless. And Cyrus is saying, let's talk about it. How would all those things that you just named, why would it be that way? First, without God, is life meaningless?
Meaning is subjective. Everyone places their own meaning. It comes from here. It doesn't come from any external source. You give yourself meaning. There are nihilists. It's a small percentage of the atheist population. I can tell you that we're not. That is a common misconception, that we're all nihilists, that we all just go around life thinking there is no meaning, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. But there are those that exist, atheists and non, whatever. But there's the hard nihilist that said it doesn't matter what we do, it's going to be the heat death of the universe. Anything you do is going to be forgotten. It doesn't matter. There are people out there like that. They don't ascribe meaning to anything, and they usually end up not living very long, for obvious reasons. They usually get in a warm bathtub and open up some veins, but that's just how that goes. And then there's the existential nihilist, and I might put myself in that category, saying life does not have any inherent meaning, but it's up to us individually or as societies to ascribe meaning to it. Christopher Hitchens in a debate once said, I'm looking, what gives me meaning? I think it was Christopher, it might have been someone else. You know what gives me meaning is that right after this debate, I'm looking forward to a really good lunch. It's first, it's to the point, but it's elegant.
Yeah, I think that was Christopher Hitchens. I think I've seen that video.
Yeah,
what gives your life meaning?
Yeah. What does Sarah say? What is that jackass saying on your chat?
That's let me see. You, right now, he says, "Why do we need eternal meaning to have any meaning?" So why do we need eternal meaning to have? He said something earlier, but it's scrolled on beyond that. I just want to look one more punchline. What gives your life meaning? Lunch after this. Like, that's great.
Yeah, I know, right?
So eternal meaning, though, that's kind of what I was alluding to before.
Atheists pride themselves on not having hero worship or idolizing any other human beings, but it's hard to not with Christopher Hitchens, boy. The guy just had to get together. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a way of just calling it straight. Okay, this is what I imagine a cradle atheist sees things so clearly. They see they see the absurdities for the absurdities, in other words. And before a Christian or a religious person gets a little upset that I just said that, the thing is, we all do it with everybody else that's not like us. All right, so let's just even the playing field for just a moment on the issue of religion. I almost envy that in so much as I feel like there's still a lot of, the entrenchment of these ideas that I find myself in, that I'm progressively removing myself from. And when I give that look back, I'm like, oh man, yeah. And then I hear a person like Christopher Hitchens say something, and it's as though it was a second thought to him. But for theists, it would be a true struggle to grapple with, with the truth claims being made versus the evidence to substantiate that. And should they have made the leap in the first place? And cradle atheists like yourself, I just imagine, don't deal with it as significantly as maybe we do psychologically. Would you think so?
It's funny you would say that you would envy me, because I was thinking just the reciprocal of that. Because I mean, I was thinking how cool it is that you said you were in the ministry, right? I mean, you were hard off into it, and to have gone from that, thinking the emperor's wearing clothes, and to just have that burst of the light bulb coming on, as an adult, where you see things clearly and you see the emperor's not wearing any clothes. I envy that feeling that you went through. And now and of course you have, like most atheists, you have that perspective that you can say, you have that playing card, you have that ace in your sleeve that I don't. Whenever you're in a civil discussion with a believer, you can pull out your card at any time, says, You know, if you're talking to a Mormon, well, I was a Mormon.
Yeah, yeah.
And they can't know true Scotsman you if you were a missionary for 2 years. There's no way to know true Scotsman someone that was often at that hard.
Right. Yeah.
And you could say I was a Mormon. I can recite the Book of Mormon. I know the Angel Moroni and the Golden Tablets better than you. You know.
Yeah.
You've got people. They've got that card in their sleeve, which I never had. I guess maybe if anything, it's not a I'm better than you, not anything like that. It's more like a I never caught the God virus.
Yeah.
That's all. Everyone, you know, I went to Africa. I went to Africa with my, and we got eaten alive by mosquitoes, and my whole squad got malaria, and I didn't get malaria.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's how it is to me.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, for someone, I might be speaking from a very limited perspective here looking at you, but for someone that never caught the virus and to be involved in activism and just speaking on these issues, I'm grateful that you do. So thank you. And I know our community is as well. But before we end our interview, since you're prior military, I'm prior military, you know, I got to ask you for one of your favorite sea stories.
Gosh. Okay. You want a G-rated, PG, or R?
Man, I can go for anything right now.
Really? You're in for R-rated?
I mean, you can pick which one.
I don't even know why this popped in my head. Okay, this is going to get really weird. Ready?
All right, let's go.
I was at Guantanamo Bay for 3 years. The ratio of men to women is 40-1. So every once in a while, there would be a trawler. This was early 90s, so it was a Russian Federation fishing trawler that would pull into our dock, and they had a contract where they could fuel up there and whatever. And it wasn't fishing. It was a healthcare trawler because it was full of Russian nurses.
Oh.
And we only had one bar on base. Had one bar on base. And it was usually just a bunch of drunk jarheads and squids just arguing about who's cooler than who.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once every month or so, we had a really derogatory term for the boat, but I'm just going to say it. We called it the tuna boat.
Yeah.
All right. So in came they would come first to our PX and buy up all the vodka on base.
Right, yep.
So we're completely devoid of alcohol, and they would take it back to their ship, and then they would trickle into this bar, the Harbor Lights, and it would end up being just 6 or 7 sailors and Marines fighting over just the biggest, nastiest, and we called them Gitmo 10s. A Gitmo 10 is about a 6 in the real world.
Yeah.
So all these Gitmo 10s. All right, that's all I'm going to say. That's my only story.
I get that. I get that because when you're on mission and everything, and you've been out to sea for a few months, you know, Gitmo's one thing, and then going out to sea, like you get it.
But I know the old Navy motto is "You're only gay if you can see the shore," right? You're only gay if you're underway. Oh, you're not gay if you're underway. That's
there you go. Yeah, man. You make me miss it a little bit.
It's good times, man. It's a lot of pain. You know, it's a hard life. Yeah. You're still in Norfolk, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
You're in Norfolk right now, so you're exposed to it. You're right there.
Yeah.
You still see a lot of it, exposed to it. I'm not where I can really hang out with my comrades anymore. Down in San Antonio there's a lot down there. There's all services.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, that was where my A school was at when I got out of boot camp, San Antonio.
Yeah. Okay. I was down. I worked right alongside the NSA for 9 of my 21 years, and so there is I can't even say this without. It's a classified situation down there, but I worked down there quite a bit.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I got out here. My parent command is over at Little Creek, and they sent me over to the Middle East. So I'm kind of not too far where my Twilight tour was at. So
nice.
Yeah, here I am. Hey, Jim, it's been such a pleasure having you on, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
We're going to do it again. We're going to do it on my channel next.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, my friend.
I'll bring Courtney over. She is the She is the muscle of the group. I'm the brains and the looks. No, she's studying for her PhD, and she's trying to get a candidacy PhD in psychology. She brings a lot to. She's so smart. I'm so lucky to have her. But that's my co-host Courtney. But yeah, if the two of us could pick your brain on my channel, we have Richard Carrier coming on September 29th. I know you are crowdfunding that. I would love to see that documentary when you're done with it.
That must be why he wants to be back by 5 p.m. on the 29th. Yeah,
there it is. We have come full circle, Grasshopper. Oh.
He's going on your show the night he's flying out of here.
That is so weird. And he's coming off MythCon at that time, so he's going to be busy little beaver.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yep. He's been very prolific here lately.
Yeah. Where can people find you, my friend?
YouTube.com/atheistedge, Facebook/atheistedge, Twitter @atheistedge, Instagram atheist_edge. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. We are on FM Player. I've got 2 books. Most people believe in God. Can they all be wrong? And this one, Pulling Back the Green Curtain, 666 Things Your Religious Leaders Never Taught You. And that one especially is a great bathroom reader. You put it on the back of your toilet, and because you can pick it up at any point. There's no real set chapters. You can just open it up anywhere and just read some weird shit that you never knew about religion.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make sure we'll put all of that into the description for everybody that's watching. We'll update that. Jim, it's been such a pleasure. Tell our audience goodbye.
Take care, all. It's been fun.